It's almost game time to get it on with the Clemson Tigers. The West Virginia Mountaineers are really good. Are they good enough to beat the Tigers? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. Welcome back into Locked On West Virginia, baby, where we're talking about the Mountaineer hoops situation this evening, and I appreciate you guys for being in here for it. Can't wait to talk about this. It's almost game day, a couple days away for West Virginia to get down in the Shriners College Classic in Charleston, South Carolina. So what we're going to be doing on this episode is we're going to preview the Clemson versus West Virginia game. We're going to talk about West Virginia's spending in here. West Virginia sports in general spending money right now at an unprecedented rate. I've got some early numbers for you and final thoughts on all that. This is an interesting situation for sure because I just don't think many people realize how much money West Virginia spent in the last week, but we'll get into that here in just a second in the next segment after this with Clemson. So as you guys know, I like to do some research on whatever team that we are potentially going to play. And so I found some things out about Clemson that I find really interesting. And so we are going to look over that information, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts on it and all that as far as, you know, where does West Virginia, what are the things they need to do to win this game? What's the blueprint to win? So some things you need to know about this game. And thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day. Locked On is the number one sports podcast network in the world right now, and that's pretty freaking cool, right? This episode is going to be brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now with FanDuel, $5 is going to make you holla, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Make sure you download the FanDuel app today to get started. All right, so jumping into this game preview, and thank you guys for the comments. I appreciate it. I was excited yesterday, too, with Kevin Brown and getting him on. That was good stuff. They were very gracious, y'all. So Kevin Brown deserves everything he gets in life, man. That kid is so humble. All right, obviously, Clemson comes into this game 3-1. They've got blowout wins over Morehead State, which was 83-56. Gardner-Webb, 97-59, and North Alabama, 81-61. Their lone loss against a pretty good Georgetown team, 79-74. Coming off one of the best years in school history, where they were a 5 seed, they beat McNeese, or they made a run into the Elite Eight, and this is year 16 under Brad Brownell. They were basically unranked in the preseason this year. It is a bit of a rebuild. And they were picked 7th in the ACC media poll behind some other ACC teams. So KenPom's got them rated 46 overall. They are, as far as an offense, they are very elite as far as efficiency goes, but they are a very, very slow-moving team, very similar to us. It's a big style clash in this game. So they are 352nd nationally in tempo out of 364 teams. That's the slowest in the ACC and one of the slowest in all Power 4. So this is a ball movement heavy team that swings it from side to side, cutters. Think about it, it's a lot of swinging the ball around. It's a lot of cutters. It's a lot of screens. It's a lot of the best look possible. And so they like to take high percentage shots in the best possible situations. And a lot of times that's inside to one of their bigs, which they do have 3 or 4 that I looked at earlier today that are 6'10" or taller. So and that's shown on paper this year, they have rebounded the ball pretty well. So, when you look at them right now, West Virginia has dominated this series 5-1. We met in 2021. We won that game by double digits. I think this is going to be an interesting game in this one because of the momentum they should have based off what they've done recently in the tournament. So if you look at their 10, 11 man rotation, they are really heavy on transfers, y'all. They got some freshmen too. They got 4 dudes that are 6'10", Davidson, Welling, Wileen, and Steinauer, who are just nightmares for opposing defenses to try to keep off the glass. So I think it's, at the end of the day, you have to hope that you can do that. And so, Nick Davidson, a 6'10", 220-pound senior, stretch 5, really big time floor spacer for them. He's a pick and pop mismatch that most teams would love to have as a stretch big. He'd be perfect for what Darren DeVries wanted to run last year. Right now, he's at about 11.8 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, and he is one of their best players for sure. Carter Welling, we know a little bit about that name, 6'10", 238. He was the WAC Defensive Player of the Year last year, where he had 1.8 blocks per game. Big time rim protector. This is going to be a factor versus Harlan Obioha. Obioha is a guy that doesn't get up off the ground very high. And so it's going to be interesting to see what he does against this guy because he's such a good shot blocker. And I'm just really, really excited to see if Obioha can answer in this game. It gives me a lot of confidence about the Big 12. Obviously, we know Jake Walleen, who transferred in from Utah, 6'9", 215, one of their best players last year at Utah. And he's very good at Clemson this year. A rebounding beast, had 11 rebounds versus Northern Alabama and 14 points. He slides in, like I said, he can slide into the 4 or the 5, whatever they need him to do. They can play small ball with him at the 5. They can pop him around at the 4, and he'll do different things. But he fills up the stat sheet, guys. 9 points a game, 7, almost 8 rebounds per game, and an assist a game. So he's able to pass it as well. Their other 6'10" guy is, I thought they had one more. Yeah. Trent Steinauer, who is a redshirt, I think a redshirt senior. I have to pay attention. No, he might be one of their freshmen, actually. Sorry. Yeah, he's one of their freshmen. So, he's one of those other ones that just, they're trying to bring along right now. But he's had a couple games this year where he's played well. He did not play last game, coach's decision. Not exactly sure what happened there. Dallas Thomas is another reserve wing that they have that's averaging right around 2 points a game. That's 6'7", 200 pounds. And then it's littered in with all the other size. We talked about Wileen. RJ Godfrey, who is maybe their best player, averaging 12 points a game, 7 rebounds right now, is a physical monster. 16 points versus Northern Alabama. So, he's another guy that you have to look at, as well as Ace Buckner, who is their starting point guard and elite finisher at the rim. And I don't use that elite term lightly here. Buckner is an amazing player and a great finisher, and he'll probably be a first-team or second-team All-CC pick. Like, he's that good of a player right now. He's averaging 13 a game, 3 assists and 3 steals per game, or 3 assists per game, 3 rebounds per game, not steals. So, this is a pretty interesting lineup. Like I said, in tempo, they're 352nd. They don't like to move it around a bunch. If you look at 3-point volume, they're averaging right around 25 attempts per game at about a 33% clip. Not elite, not terrible. It's like, you have to respect it no matter who's shooting it as a team. And it's all that. As an assist, their assists are a little bit higher. They're at 16.8 assists per game, which is 65% of their field goals are assisted field goals. So, that's another interesting one here. Like, they're going to pass the ball. Can they get you out of position like West Virginia's gotten out of position a couple times this year as they've been really overactive on defense? Sometimes you over pursue, what have you, and then you get over your skis and they've got you in rotations and they just eat you alive with their passing. This is definitely something that could hurt West Virginia. Their defense is interesting as well. They're top 10 nationally in rebounding margin. They play well on the glass, and if you look at their games versus other teams, and they've been inferior teams, let's not forget, they've been plus 10 offensive boards on the glass in each of these last couple games versus teams that just weren't very good. So overall, they allow right around 58 points per game, playing elite defense, very similar to what we're doing right now. 38% field goal percentage. Their perimeter soft. I think they allow for the 3-point shot. They like to pack everything in. This is going to really test them. Do they have one guy that can guard on or Huff? Do they have one guy that can stay out on Eagle staff forever? Because we can't just – he's going to have to stop getting FaceTimed at some point. And when they do, Eagle stuff is going to come out and surprise some people, I think. I'm not saying he's going to be the best player in the country, but I do think there are going to be games where he plays better than he has. Absolutely. So here's what I have for West Virginia. Here's what I think we need to do to win the game. It's pretty simple. I think we're going to have to push tempo. Clemson doesn't like fast. They like slow. West Virginia's slow by nature, but has the chance to push it because Ross Hodge will do is he'll put multiple guards on the floor at a time every now and again and give up the size advantage in order to push tempo and do different things. So can you have a situation where you've got maybe Honor Huff, maybe you have Amir Jenkins, and maybe you have, one other guy that handles the ball really well on the floor at the same time. You can do that. And so I think that's going to be interesting to try. Win the glass somehow. I'm talking to you, Harlan Obioha, Chance Moore, and Agusic as well, who's been a pretty good rebounder at times for West Virginia. Limit second chances before you get buried by them. That's what they did last year at Clemson. It took them all the way deep in the tournament and all that. Number 3, you have to be disciplined and don't overhelp. Why? Because if you over-rotate on the cuts or their swing passes, it's only going to allow them to get wide open shots and they could get hot. And that's definitely not what you want to do. We saw that last game, when it was us, but we saw what it looks like when a team gets hot. It can be tough to stop somebody. And I'm sure Clemson has a guy on that roster that maybe not to the level of Honor Huff, but certainly a really good player or two that can stroke the ball, especially if they get rolling. You just don't want to let any team get rolling. Number 3, you want to be disciplined on your help defense. Don't over-rotate on the cuts. They'll swing the open threes every time. Everybody stay within the bounds. It's like on defense in football. They tell you to stay in your lane and do your job, right? Okay, on this play, I'm supposed to read this guard is my key, and then if the back goes into the flat, I'm over here or whatever, right? That's your key. That means don't go and try to sack the quarterback right away and leave your keys wide open. You got to read your keys. So don't overrate on cuts. I think attack early. You want to get transition set. You want to get transition before they can set up on defense. They'll probably have a similar kind of belief against us because we have a similar type defense. But like our system thrives on early defense and all this chaos and everything that you can get going. Very similar to what we've had here in the past. And I do think that Ross Hodge is very capable of making this happen. I'm curious because they are a team that is going to be very gritty for the rest of the year and tough to out. I don't know about their ranking in the ACC, whether they should be 7th or more, but I do think West Virginia wins this game 78-80. I think we'll be able to exploit their fouls. They've given up a lot of fouls this year. I also think that they just haven't faced the quality of team in West Virginia yet, except for Georgetown. And I think West Virginia is as good or better than Georgetown for sure. But I could be wrong. It's not like we watch every single game. It's early in the year. But I just have a feeling about this West Virginia team. And then, it's going to be up to you where you to play Xavier or Georgia, I believe it is. So, the tournament's there to be had. I think West Virginia comes in as a pretty decent favorite, you would think, even in the year 1 rebuild where Ross Hodges just put a great team together, at least on short notice like he has, and I'm excited to see what that looks like. Let's go to break now. West Virginia is spending money, guys, and I'm talking about big money on high school recruits and the like. What does this mean for the football program going forward? And Kevin Brown is built for this. I played this clip on my X account. It's a separate clip from yesterday. I want to play on here. He has been trained since a little kid to play for none other than Rich Rodriguez. We'll play that next as well. This episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. And right now with FanDuel, if you're playing with $5, it'll make you holla. Well, there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything you want, guys. And that means from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your same bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger prize. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's $300 in bets to use across the app. All you have to do is sign up and you'll get it. And then when your first $5 bet hits, you can't win if you don't play. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, guys, it's segment 2. Let's crack open a do, and it is a regular do. I know some of you are going to get on to me for it. I know. It's the only one, and the truth, this is the truth. This is the only one I've drank today, whether that's good or not. But I've been busy all day, and I'm tired, so I needed a little bit of caffeine. All right, so let's jump into another conversation. I don't really have any notes on this, but I want to play a clip first. So we'll start with the clip, and then we'll get into the money in just a minute. All right. If I can get the clip to play here. Oh. For whatever reason, it does this to me sometimes, but okay, here we go. All right, this is Kevin Brown's dad, Tim, talking about what he's been training for his entire life. A little quiver in the voice on the McAfee show when you were describing seeing he was committed so early, and you probably inside wanted him to go to West Virginia, I'm sure, but you don't want to push it on him. It's got to be a fine line to walk.
Well, early on, this has been about the best football situation for Kevin, and I knew he needed to be in a spread offense. He really needs to be in a spread offense with his style of play, the way he runs zone and that type of thing. I knew that for sure. And the way West Virginia's football was played at the time, it was like not a good football situation for his style of play. And then, so Penn State was the closest to us. It was the best situation, and they ran a very similar offense to what I thought would be okay for Kevin. Not the most ideal, but it would be a decent offense. And then once Rich Rod comes back to West Virginia, my stomach sank. Like I just sat there on my couch when they were in the Coliseum having that big media day. I just sat there. I was the only one that wasn't like happy because I knew what was coming. I knew the pressure inside of me because I was trained under Rod. So the training I did with Kevin has got him. Like, I've prepared him for this moment to play for Rod. Believe it or not, like he has been trained his whole life to be in this offense.
So that was really enlightening, and I thought awesome. Like one of the coolest interviews I've ever done, and I was so proud of it just because, you know, the way they opened up, right? It's tough when you're doing interviews sometimes. You never know what you're going to get. So, like, I had Steve Slayton on. No offense to Steve Slayton at all. Love the guy to death, truly. But he's not always very talkative, right? So you never know what you're going to get. And I think Kevin was kind of keeping it kosher as far as some of his responses. He was remaining humble and not braggadocious like I was trying to feed him into. I was trying to get him down that path. It didn't work. But his dad was emotional. And I think you got some of his raw feelings after the fact of how he was really feeling. He wanted Kevin to go to West Virginia his whole life. And because, Dana Holgerson and company kicked them out of the practice facility like they were nobodies when they're supposed to have their own locker room. Like they're supposed to have their own locker room, and you can't even come in the facility. Get out of here. Like they were going to tell Alabama or whoever it was that year what's going on. I do want to clear up one other question, and then we'll get to the money. So a few people have asked me why, or I've seen them post comments on that interview. Why does it matter if Kevin got told no by Dana when he was 10 or 12 years old? Because who cares? He was 10 or 12 years old. And why wouldn't they watch his tape, et cetera? That's not exactly how it went. How it went was Holgerson and company kicked them out of the stadium as a family. They came down there to check things out. Kevin was starting to show signs of being an elite player. At least his dad knew that, but all dads think their kids are good, right? So, obviously I understand you can always take it 100% serious, but in his case, you damn sure could. And unfortunately they were walked out of the practice facility in an embarrassing fashion, right? This is one of your players that went to the NFL, and now he's being escorted out after probably telling his family that day, check, I'm going to show you this and that and the other thing. Oh my God, how horrible. And then the next regime, Neil Brown, were the ones that didn't even look at his tape. So I think that combination of things has kind of gotten a little mixed up. So they weren't trying to sell him as much then as they were with Moore and company. But, I do think they were trying to build that relationship, and Dana just completely shot it to hell before it ever had a chance. And it took one of the greater football coaches in the entire sport to get fired. I mean, I get why James Franklin got fired, because it was a bad 3-game stretch. And he was given everything, and that team that team was ready, you thought, to ascend to the next level. Like, I understand why everybody was upset, but I think they would have took a step back from the situation. You would have realized, who the hell are you going to replace him with? There's nobody out there that's better outside of the usual suspects, Nick Saban or Urban Meyer or whoever. So yeah, that to me, that was all super interesting, and lent itself to a bunch of just different factors overall. All right. So what you guys have been waiting on is the money. I wanted to confirm a couple different things, and I'm going to refrain from saying names because I've been asked to, as far as I don't want to give their stuff away for free. They have a website, you pay for it to get this information. And what people will do is they'll just screenshot something that's said, and then they'll send it to me, right? And I'll look over it, and I'll either already know about it in some cases, or I won't know about it. Like, there's plenty of them. Like, I don't know everything. But there are cases where I know more than maybe they either are letting on in those comments where they're talking. Like, these are media folks, right? They're either, or they're lying sometimes. Like, I've seen them, and I don't mean that they're liars, but what they'll do is sometimes in the past, I at least know one company they set up a fake details around the story to see who would report it, just so they can kind of be like, haha, that guy took the bait and ran with it. When now we know who the guy that's full of crap is, right? That kind of thing. So, people, they play games like this. So I got a screenshot sent to me that was talking about details surrounding Kevin's deal. And, I haven't asked him about that. Wasn't going to. Then I got that email about, or not the email, but the screenshot earlier today about the speculation was right around 2 years, $400,000 a year. That's an insanely big amount of money for a freshman. Not saying he doesn't deserve it. He does. But it's just to try to even consider, like, some of the best offensive linemen in the sport are getting that right now as free agents in the portal, Well, some of the better ones anyway. I mean, we're talking about, starters at the Power 4 level and beyond, kind of. So that to me was a pretty telltale thing. And I'll just say it like this. I'm not going to confirm whether or not those numbers are true. I did find out whether or not they were. I'm not going to say anything because I don't think it would help anything to talk about it anymore and say whether it is or isn't. But let me just go a different direction with it before anybody gets mad. Just know that the money is being spent wisely, and they've got more right now than I think that obviously we've ever had. and or expecting more to come in too. Like it's not all there right now, I don't think, but they have pledges, they have promises, they have strategies, that kind of thing. And so things are moving along really well right now. I do believe that, here's another clip that we had played just the other day. And aren't we glad that this came true?
Explained to us how unbelievable it was and how he had never had a year like this. But I do think, the financial investment into the roster is going to go up big time.
Yeah, exponentially.
More than double, more than triple next year.
Right. More than double, more than triple. And I think a lot of people laughed at that. And I think Tosh, who is an avid watcher of the show, Tosh Miller, who's somebody I very much respect, he said speculation. Like there are people that feel like that comment he made there wasn't on point as much because it sounds like he was speculating a little bit. I don't think so, personally. I've listened to it a bunch of times. I've clarified with him, and this is what was meant. Let me phrase it this way. West Virginia played Houston. We know that on the road. And so part of the job of these guys that do the play-by-play is to meet with the staff. So whatever players they want to let them meet with. And then they got to kind of come up with a story about, what are that's like, this guy had a crazy story. This guy had a crazy upbringing. This guy's going through this, thing this season. And then there's what coaches say and all that. And so and a lot of this is private conversation. My opinion is this. We were having a conversation there and he divulged that just from memory based on conversations with Rich Rod and company about where they thought they would be this coming year. That's what that is. That's what that is. He was just by memory and from memory repeating something he'd been told. How would he know? He doesn't cover West Virginia. So why would he say that? It has no basis except for he was told that. And that's good enough for me considering he's a national guy. We already knew it was going to be better. I think we were trying to wrap our minds around what numbers or what, because we've heard, okay, there's the $5 million outside the cap that they didn't spend. Well, what is that? What does that even look like? And where does it go? And does it even roll over? Because then people are like, well, they lost it. They didn't use it. You lose it. You don't lose it. You don't use it. You lose it kind of situation, which is true. If you let it roll over to the next fiscal year, yes, you do lose it. Thankfully, West Virginia, the way the portal worked out this year and the way that the rules worked out this year, things were in were they June or July or what? I don't even remember now whenever all that officially became. But, teams front loaded. I think the end date was by July, but teams front loaded in anticipation, anticipating was what I wanted to say, of the cap thing happening. And so they loaded up and sent a bunch of money out before it was officially a rule. And so, and a lot of teams did it. So West Virginia kind of got off guard there. I think West Virginia front loaded some, but not as much as others. And they decided, you know what, $5 million of this that we front loaded for this season, we're just not going to use it. We feel like we have a competitive enough team. Might as well. What's 90 players versus 81 going to do for us anyway? That, et cetera, et cetera. So, you've got the $5 million that they're going to spend this coming portal opening. They may have already spent it. We just don't know where between the two players we've gotten in the last 48 hours. Sadler and Kevin Brown are worth over the course of 2 years apiece. I would say they're both worth. Let's just make it easy. And I'm not going to say that this is not the number. Let's say they're worth $500,000 apiece. That's $1 million for them over 2-3 years, right? So you're talking about you're eating up a lot of that $5 million right away. And it's all one big pot, most likely. There's a lot about it we don't know. But I just think, generally, let's just consider the fact that West Virginia has had a plan and the plan is being implemented. And we're seeing the fruits from that plan implemented right in front of us now that we've gotten 2 basically 5-star players in a row, although Kevin is I mean, he's like, what's something really small? Like they used to say, my dad used to have sayings for things like this all the time, like something on a frog's ass, hair on a frog's ass, or something like that. Anyway, like it's like that small, but it is there. So, West Virginia in a pretty good spot, guys, is what I'm trying to get at here. Based on the last 48 hours, we've seen it in action. This is the new West Virginia way, and it's not stopping there. We've got multiple other 4-star guys that West Virginia is reaching for. We got multiple other big-time portal guys that they're already reaching out to. I know of 2 of personally that I'm waiting to see what happens with these guys because I shouldn't have said this yet, but they are big-time guys that'll probably be in the portal. One of them already is, I believe, but or at least it's announced he's going to. I'm not exactly sure, but West Virginia is very involved with some of the very best players around the country this time. It's going to be way different this time, you guys. I'm just letting you know up front. It's going to be a wild off season. You need to stay tuned to here because I will follow every single second of every single recruit we bring in. If it's 81 players, I'll do 81 videos. I will. I will cover every single one of these because I think they're going to be very significant. But I don't think it's going to be 81. I think it's going to be maybe 15 or 20 very significant ones. Now, maybe it could be a few less, but yeah, I think that they're going to go out and get 10 or 13, 14 guys that are really good and they know are really good. And that's how you fill out. Maybe you get a quarterback, maybe you get another running back, then you get your offensive line, defensive line fixed, get a corner, the whole 9. Let's go to break. We'll give you our final thoughts after the break here. Locked on West Virginia. We'll be right back. And this episode of Locked on West Virginia is going to be brought to you by our friends at Game Time. We like Game Time. Right now with Game Time, guys, it's a pretty simple thing with them. If you didn't know, now you know. Let me get my banner pulled up here. Why won't it show up? There it goes. Man, sometimes this stuff is just technology. All right. College football is back. I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the energy in the stands, the rivalries, there's nothing like it. But we have to be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like the battle in the game itself. That's just truth. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping up at checkout. That's why I use Game Time. It's an app that gives the advantage back to the fans. And it's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices, especially with great seats, with no surprise fees at checkout. What you see, what you pay. I actually pulled up Game Time and in just a couple taps saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football teams for $25 or so. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase where the terms apply. That's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off today. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Game Time today and answer the question of all questions. It's game time. Or I should say, what time is it? It's game time. All right, we're back, guys. Locked on West Virginia in segment 3. Thank you guys so much for being here as we have dove in headfirst to a Clemson preview. We've dove in headfirst to some NIL kind of discussions we're having here. And what does that mean for West Virginia? I do think it means a lot. It's going to be the most interesting offseason, I think, ever for us. Rich Rod and company are really going to dive in headfirst. At least it feels that way. Maybe we'll get in there. It'll be slow. I don't know, but I doubt it. I really kind of doubt it. Rich Rod's not patient. So, all right, y'all. That's pretty much all I got for you today. Thanks for joining in on this one. I'll try to go live one more time tonight, but it's already 8:14. So I might have missed my window. I did do a pre-recorded video earlier today. So we're kind of still at 2 videos, but I would like to go live again at 9 if I can shake it. It just depends on if I can figure out what I want to talk about or not, because there's just not a lot out there today in the news cycle. We've had one hell of a week. I could do a recap or something like that of the week that was, which has been an all-time week, literally ever. when you talk about Kevin Brown, who was basically a 5-star. You talk about Miles Sadler, who's a 5-star. You talk about the Greenbrier Five, who were literally the topic of discussion in not only college sports, but it went beyond. I seen it was on Fox. I think it was on Fox News. It was on CNN, I think, had it on there or something along those lines. I can't remember. But this was something that was talked about everywhere around the country, and those girls deserved it. Absolutely deserved it. So make sure you show them your love as well, guys. They really deserve our love and support, and we want to make sure we're giving it to them. All right, y'all. I'm going to jump out of here, but until I do, make sure you locked on West Virginia for your first listen, and then head over to Locked On Big 12 for your second one. As Drake Toll does an amazing job talking about America's Conference, the Big 12, where we cover everything going on with them boys, and he does it at a high level. And we'll see you on the next one, guys. Don't forget to cue those country roads. We're out.